Hello, my amazing students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. And today we're doing lesson 94 in your Saxon Blue Book, and it's all about roots by cut and try. So up until this point, we have only worked with perfect roots, the ones that come out perfectly as even numbers. The cubic root of 27 is 3 because 3 cubed, or 3 times 3 times 3, equals 27. So when we're looking for the cubic root of a number, we're looking for the number that when cubed would give me my 27. Okay, when we did the fourth root of 16, we know it is exactly 2 because 2 to the fourth is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. So that's all we've done up until this point. What do we do when we have roots that are not exact? Well, we can get a very good approximation of something like the cubic root of 5. The cubic root of 5 is not a perfect root, and later on we will do an inverse operation on our scientific calculator, inverse of y to the x, and that will give us the cubic root. But right now, before we get there, we're going to try a method called cut and try. So here, we're going to start with an estimate. We have the cubic root of 5. We don't know what it is, but we do know that the cubic root of 1 is 1. And we know that the cubic root of 8 is 2. And we know that 5 is kind of in the middle of 1 and 8, so why don't we try 1.5? Just to see if we are close. Well, when we try 1.5, we multiply 1.5 times 1.5 times 1.5, and we come up with 3.375, which is not equal to 5. It's too low. Okay, too small or too low. So that was 1.5. So we try again. We know 2 is too high because 2 cubed is 8. So we're going to try 1.8. And when we plug in 1.8 times 1.8 times 1.8 in our calculator, you're allowed to use a calculator with this section, we get 5.832. And remember, the number we're trying for is 5 because we're trying to find the cubic root of 5. So this one was too large. Okay, so 1.8 is too big, 1.5 is too small, so we will try 1.7. When we plug in 1.7 times 1.7 times 1.7 into our calculator, we get 4.913, which is too small, but 1.8 was too big. So now we're going to try something like 1.73, because to estimate a number to 1 decimal place, we want to rule out the fact that it could be 1.75, because that would bump it up to the 1.8, wouldn't it? So we're going to try 1.73. So we multiply 1.73 times 1.73 times 1.73, and we get 5.18, which is a little bit big, but it tells us that the best estimate to 1 decimal place, since 1.7 was a little too low and 1.73 was a little bit too high, we know the best estimate is 1.7 to the 1 decimal place. So it's to the 10th place that we were making our estimate. And that is the method of cut and try. Okay, so this is example 2. We're going to find the square root of 7 to 1 decimal place with the cut and try method. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a guess. 2 times 2 is 4, so the square root of 4 is 2. 3 times 3 is 9, so the square root of 9 is 3. So I know that my answer is somewhere between 2 and 3. So I'm going to try a couple of things. First, I'm going to try 2.5. And then I'm going to try 2.8 if 2.5 is too small. And then I'm going to try 2.6 if I need to. So first of all, let's look at these. I'm going to show you my calculator. Okay, so 2.5, and we're going to multiply it by 2.5. So let's see if I can show you here. 2.5 times 2.5 5. Okay, so that's what I've got, 2.5 times 2.5, and I end up with 6.25. Now I'm trying to get 7. 6.25. I'm trying to get 7, so this is too low. So I'm going to write down on my board 6.25 so I don't forget it. 6.25, and that was too low because I'm looking for 7. So now I'm going to try 2.8. Okay, so we get our calculator, and we're going to do 2.8 times 2.8, and we get 7.84, which is too big. Okay, so we're going to write down 7.84, but we're going to say it's too high. 7.84, it is too high. All right, so now look, this was 0.75 too low. This is 0.84 too high. Okay, so now we're going to try something like 2.6. Okay, so let's try 2.6 and see if we're too high or too low. So 2.6 times 2.6, and I get, I pressed the wrong button. I divided. So let's clear that up. 2.6 times 2.6, and I get 6.76, which is a lot closer, but still too low. So 2.6 was 6.76, and it is too low. Well, we already tried, we haven't tried 2.7, so I'm going to try 2.7 because it's in between a high and a low, so why not try 2.7? So we're going to do 2.7 times 2.7, and we get 7.29, and that's too high. So 7.29, and that is too high. So I know that my answer is somewhere in between 2.6 and 2.7, okay? But I am trying to round to the nearest tenth. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put 2.65 because isn't 5 where I would round up? So I'm going to try 2.65 and see if it's too high or too low. Okay, so we're going to say 2.65 times 2.65, and are you ready? Enter, and what did I get? 7.022. Okay, so that's a little bit high. So 2.65 is just a little bit high. So we would not round up to 2.7. Since we're doing it to one decimal place, we would round down to 2.6 because it looks like 2.64 is going to be closest. So we're going to round down to 2.6, and 2.6 should be our answer. So that is the process of cut and try. So now we're going to do a practice problem. One thing I forgot was, remember, we're going to say the square root of 7 instead of equals. We're going to just put approximately because this is approximate. This is not exactly. Okay, we're going to find as you get older and higher in your math that we cannot write anything exact when we have the square root of 7, because 7 does not come out exactly, and we have to say always approximation, because this is called an irrational number, and it goes on and on and on forever and never stops. Wow, like pi. Okay, so this is your practice problem, and you have two practice problems. So this is a cubic root. So we're looking for the number that when multiplied by itself 3 times will give us 15. Okay, so we know a few things. We know that 1 cubed is 1. We know that 2 cubed is 8. And we know that 3 cubed is 27. So cubes go up pretty quickly. So don't we know that the cubic root of 15 must be somewhere in between 8 and 27? Okay, so I'm going to guess. Let's do a couple of things. Let's say that, first of all, I want you to do this on your own. So I want you to take this information and pause your video and go figure it out with using the cut and try method. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing, but I'm going to try, since it's between, the 15 is between the 8 and the 27, then we know that the number we're looking for is in between 2 and 3. So let's try 2.5 and see if it's too high or too low. So what we'll do is we'll cube 2.5 and see what happens. So here we go, just to get a reference point. So now we're going to use 2.5 times 2.5 times 2.5. And I get 15.625, which is too big. Okay, so we know 2.5 is too big. Too big. So what about 2.4? Okay, so 2.4, if we cube it, all right, I'm going to put in 2.4 and cube it, and I get 13.824. So 13.824 is too low. Okay, so if I know that 2.4 is too low and 2.5 is too big, I have to figure out which one is going to be the better estimate, because I am supposed to get the best estimate to the 10th place. So now I'm going to go to the 100th place, and I'm going to say, well, I have to find the best estimate to the 100th place. So why don't we try 2.45 and see what happens. So we're going to take 2.45 and cube it and see if we're low or high. 2.45 times 2.45, and that is going to be 3 times, right? 14.7. 14.7. So this one is actually low. So 14.7 is lower than the 15, which means that the 2.45 is a little low, but see, the 5 is already going to make this go up to a 5, isn't it, when we round it to the 10th place? So our answer is 2.5. That is the best estimate. So 2.5 is the correct answer. Did you get it right? Did you do it by yourself? All right, so we are doing the square root of 23, and this is the last problem. It is your practice problem. So go off and do it yourself, and then come back and see if you got it right. So pause your video. All right, so we know that 5 squared is 25. And I'm looking for 23. So I know it's close to 5, but 5's a little high, isn't it? 4 squared is 16. Do you see how close we are with the 5 squared? So that's going to be 4 point something, because 4 is 16. So why don't we try 4.8? Okay, because we're just trying to get to the nearest 10th. So we're going to try 4.8. So we're going to say 4.8 and square that, and we're going to get 23.04. Now 23.04 is pretty close. So I think I hit that nail right on the head. Okay, so if I went down, so this is just a tad over, so that means it's probably like 4.79. But since I'm supposed to round it to the nearest tenth, then I'm sticking with 4.8. And that one didn't take me long to get, did it? So if you're a smart guesser, so I'm going to, since 4.4 squared was 16 and 5 squared was 25, and 25 is much closer to 23, then that's why I chose 4.8 as a good guess. And it was a very good guess because I got a 23.0 to the 10th place. So that would be pretty cool. And we are done with lesson 94, all about the cut and try method of finding a root. And this is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.